You're listening to Beyond the Couch podcast with Dr. Sally Nazari, where we look at you beyond the couch and build ways to enrich your life, share your triumphs, achieve your goals, and most importantly, where we'll be celebrating you. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Couch. I'm your host, licensed clinical psychologist and Reiki master teacher, Dr. Sally Nazari, and I'm really excited today to wrap up our Looking at Trauma series. We've already explored the different elements of PTSD or posttraumatic stress disorder that include re-experiencing, hyperarousal, and avoidance. Today, we'll look at the final symptom cluster, cognitive shifts. After a traumatic event, you may start to have thoughts about the dangerousness of the world, particular places, or situations that are based on your reactions rather than the actual real-life, present-day danger of those situations. This leads us to examine how your thoughts may affect your reactions. Besides thoughts about dangerousness, many different types of beliefs about ourselves and the world can be affected by traumatic events. To better understand this, let's look at cognitive theory. As you were growing up, you learned about the world and organized it into categories or beliefs. For example, when you were small, you learned that a thing with a back, seat, and four legs is a chair. In the beginning, you just called all of them chair. You may have even called a couch a chair or a stool a chair because they had a back, seat, and four legs. Later, as you got older, through experience, you learned more complex categories. So you may have learned dining room chair, rocking chair, recliner, or folding chair. We develop many categories of ideas and beliefs about others, the world, and ourselves, as well as for objects. One common belief that many people learn while growing up is that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. This is called the just world belief. You may have learned this through your religion, your parents, your teachers, or you may have picked it up as a way to make the world seem safer and more predictable. It makes more sense when you're young. For example, parents wouldn't want to say, if you do something you're not supposed to do, you may or may not get in trouble. However, as we grow up, we realize that the world is more complex than that. Just like how we learn that there are all different types of chairs. If you've ever had things go bad and you said, "Why me?" then you likely have a just world belief. Many of us do. You also subscribe to the just world belief if you wondered, "Why not me?" when others were hurt. When an unexpected event occurs that doesn't fit your beliefs, there are different ways that you may try to make it fit with your existing beliefs. One way that you may have tried to make the event and your beliefs fit is by changing your memories or interpretations of the event to fit with your pre-existing beliefs. This is not deliberate or intentional, and we refer to this as assimilation. Examples of changing your interpretations or memories of the event are to blame yourself for not preventing the event or protecting loved ones, to have trouble accepting that the event happened, to forget that it happened, or to forget the most horrifying parts. Changing the event may seem easier than changing your entire set of beliefs about the world, how people behave, or your beliefs about your safety. It is possible that instead of changing the event, you may change your beliefs to accept what happened. Again, this is not deliberate or intentional, and we refer to this as accommodation. One goal of therapy, particularly cognitive processing therapy, is accommodation. Now, it's important to remember that unfortunately, some people go overboard and change their beliefs too much, which may result in a reluctance to become intimate with others or develop trust and increased fear. We refer to this as over-accommodation. Other examples that reflect an extreme change in beliefs include thinking that no one can be trusted or that the world is completely dangerous. For some people who have had previous negative experiences in their life, traumatic events can seem to reinforce or confirm these previously held beliefs. For example, prior to having experienced a trauma, you may have believed that others can't be trusted or that the world is generally unsafe. The traumatic event comes along and seems to confirm those beliefs. Or maybe you were told that everything was your fault growing up, so when a bad thing happens, it seems to confirm that, once again, you're at fault. Some goals for therapy, particularly cognitive processing therapy, which I've included a link to in the show notes, is to help you accept the reality of the event, to feel your emotions about it, and to help you develop balanced and realistic beliefs about the event, yourself, and others. Now, let's look at emotions and their connections to our cognitive shifts. There are two kinds of emotions that follow traumatic events. The first type include the feelings that follow naturally from the event and that would be universal. Fear when in real danger, anger when being intentionally harmed, joy or happiness with positive events, or sadness with losses. These natural emotions have a natural course. They will not continue forever unless there is something that you do to feed them. It's important to feel these emotions that you may not have allowed yourself to experience about the event and let them run their natural course. The second type of emotions, manufactured feelings, result not directly in response to the event, but based on how you interpret the event. If you have thoughts such as, I should have rescued other people, or I must be a failure that I can't get over it, then you will be feeling angry at yourself or shame. These emotions are not based on the facts of the event, but on your interpretations. The more that you continue to think about the event in these ways, the more and more of the manufactured feelings you're going to have. The upside of the fact that you're producing these feelings is that if you change your thoughts and interpretations, you will change your feelings. Think of your emotions as a fire in a fireplace. The fire has energy and heat to it, just like your emotions. However, it will burn out if it's not continually fed. Self-blame or guilty thoughts can continue to feed the emotional fire indefinitely. Take away the fuel of your thoughts, and the fire burns out quickly. In order for you to recover from your traumatic events, cognitive processing therapy will work with you to express and accept your natural emotions and to adjust the manufactured feelings in order to burn that fire out. In other words, one goal of therapy will be to help you recognize and modify what you're saying to yourself, your thoughts and interpretations about the event, which may have become automatic. These distorted beliefs may become so automatic that you aren't even aware that you have them. Even though you may not be aware of what you're saying to yourself, your beliefs and self-statements affect your mood and your behavior. Often, people aren't aware that they're having thoughts about whatever they're experiencing. In fact, we have over 50,000 thoughts a day, and it's impossible to keep up with all of them. Cognitive processing therapy will be helping you to identify what your automatic thoughts are and how they influence what you feel. It will also teach you ways to challenge and change what you're saying to yourself and what you believe about yourself in the event. Now, it's important to remember that some of your beliefs about the event will be more balanced than others. As we think about trauma and PTSD, there are specific themes which may be areas of beliefs in our life that were affected by the traumatic event. 5 general themes stand out. These include safety, trust, power and control, esteem, and intimacy. Each of these themes can be considered from 2 directions: how you view yourself and how you view others. The first topic we will discuss is safety. If prior to the trauma, you thought you were quite safe, that others were not dangerous, and that you could protect yourself, these beliefs are likely to have been disrupted by the event. On the other hand, if you had prior experiences that left you thinking others were dangerous or likely to harm you, or believing that you were unable to protect yourself, then the event would serve to confirm or strengthen those beliefs. Self-trust is concerned with the belief that one can trust or rely upon one's own perceptions or judgments. After traumatic events, many people begin to second-guess themselves and to question their own judgment about being in the situation that led to the event, their behaviors during the event, or about their ability to judge character if the perpetrator was an acquaintance. Trust in others is also frequently disrupted following traumatic events. Aside from the obvious sense of betrayal that occurs when a trauma is caused intentionally by someone that we thought we could trust, sometimes people feel betrayed by the people they turn to for help or support during or after the event. Sometimes people carry the belief that comes with this for decades. On the other hand, sometimes people cannot handle the emotions that trauma survivors express or exhibit, and they withdraw or try to minimize the event or the impact. Such a withdrawal may be viewed as a rejection by us, and we come to believe that the other person cannot be trusted to be supportive. One example of this includes sometimes when more than one member of a family is affected by a traumatic event, such as the traumatic death of a loved one, family members are out of sync with each other. One person wants to talk and needs comfort, just as another closes off because they've had all the emotions they can handle for a while. Without clear communication, the cycling of grief and withdrawal can be misunderstood as lack of support and can result in problematic interpretations of the situation. Self-power or self-efficacy refers to a person's expectations that they can solve problems and meet new challenges. Because the trauma event was out of their control, people who've experienced a trauma often attempt complete control over their situations and their emotions. They may adopt the unrealistic belief that they must control everything, or they will be completely out of control. Unfortunately, this tendency to engage in either-or thinking can become problematic. Now, conversely, If someone overgeneralizes and believes that they have no control over anything, they may refuse to make any decisions or be proactive with their life because they believe that nothing will work out anyway. Like trust, though, control is multidimensional. It's not uncommon for people grappling with PTSD to believe that if they don't clamp down on their emotions, that they will go to the other extreme and lose control completely. Power with regard to others involves the belief that one can control or cannot control future outcomes in interpersonal relationships. People who've been the victim of interpersonal violence, particularly by acquaintances, attempt to have complete control in any new relationships they may develop after the trauma, and have difficulty allowing the other member to have any control. As a result of this, previously existing relationships may become disrupted, or these people may have great difficulty establishing new relationships and possibly avoid the situation altogether. As we can imagine, with the last couple of belief areas, our self-esteem may be impacted. Now, self-esteem, remember, is the belief in your own self-worth, which is a basic human need. Being understood, respected, and taken seriously is basic to the development of self-esteem. Prior to the trauma experience, if you had prior experiences that represented a violation of your own sense of self, you're likely to develop negative beliefs about your self-worth. The traumatic event may seem to confirm these beliefs. On the other hand, if you had prior experiences that serve to enhance your beliefs about your self-worth, then the traumatic event may disrupt your beliefs or your self-esteem. Likewise, esteem beliefs related to others are those that impact how much you value other people. Prior to the trauma, if you had many bad experiences with people in the past or had difficulty taking in new information about people you knew, you may have found yourself surprised, hurt, and betrayed. You may have concluded that other people are not good or not to be respected. In fact, you may have generalized this belief to everyone, even those who are basically good and to be respected. The traumatic event may seem to confirm these beliefs about people. On the other hand, if your prior experiences with people had been positive, and if negative events in the world did not seem to apply to your life, the event was probably a belief-shattering event. Prior beliefs in the basic goodness of other people may be particularly disrupted if people who were assumed to be supportive were not there for you after the trauma. An important function for stability is the ability to soothe and calm oneself. This self-intimacy is reflected in the ability to be alone without feeling lonely or empty. When a trauma occurs, people react differently depending on their expectancy of how well they will cope. A person with stable and positive self-intimacy may experience the traumatic event as less traumatic because of the expectancy and ability of drawing support from internal resources. However, if the event is in conflict with earlier self-esteem beliefs, the person may feel overwhelmed or flooded by anxiety. If you had prior experiences that led you to believe that you're unable to cope with negative life events, you may have reacted to the traumatic event with negative beliefs that you were unable to soothe, comfort, or nurture yourself. The longing for intimacy, connection, and closeness is one of the most basic human needs. The capacity to be intimately connected with other people is fragile. It can easily be damaged or destroyed through insensitive, hurtful, or unempathic responses from others. Negative beliefs may result from traumatic loss of intimate connections. A traumatic event may seem to confirm your belief in your inability to be close to another person. If you previously had satisfying intimate relationships with others, you may find that the event, especially if committed by an acquaintance, may leave you believing that you could never be intimate with anyone again. You may also experience a disruption in your belief about your ability to be intimate with others if you were blamed or rejected by those who you thought would be supportive. Now, we've spent some time over the last several weeks looking at all of the clusters of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, and today we conclude our series on looking at trauma with exploring the ways that our thinking patterns can shift following a traumatic event. We also explored how cognitive processing therapy works to modify these impacts. You can read a little bit more about cognitive processing therapy through a link in the show notes as well. I hope you've learned quite a bit, and I look forward to hearing how these new discoveries have impacted you and helped you build a life that you want to celebrate. I'll look forward to next time. Until then, take care.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Couch Podcast, a space for celebrating you. The contents of this episode are for informational and supplemental purposes only, and not a substitute for professional services. For more access to You Beyond the Couch, check out www.drsallynazari.com.